Alright, so I just wanted to record, I don't really know how long this is going to be, maybe an hour or so. But I wanted to just show off the Ashida now that it's all done and finished. Kind of do a walkthrough for the person that's going to be buying it so that they understand how to use it. And then I want to kind of talk about the Ashida and what I really like about it, a few minor gripes I have with it, do a sort of review of sorts. And then I think I'll just do some gameplay for a little while, and then answer some questions I got on my last video. So this is the Ashida. It is a portable GameCube / portable Wii with a real Wii inside, so that GameCube and Wii games run very, very well. It's currently running RV Loader, which is the software of the system, so it's easy to add and load games onto it. So you switch menus with the C stick. So you can go already in the GameCube section. You can open up your Wii games from here, and you can do all of that. As far as the interface of the portable goes, this down here is the power switch. You've got your headphone jack, you've got a potentiometer for volume control, and then you've got two buttons here for controlling the screen menus. I'll go over that later. Okay, I'll go over it right now since I accidentally opened it. One of these buttons is the menu button, and then the other one is just the up button, I believe. So sometimes you'll need to run this auto config thing to get the screen all laid out so that the borders line up correctly. Like currently the borders are not lined up correctly, so I need to rerun it. But yeah, you just have to do that sometimes depending on which game you open, because the borders are a little wonky on some games. We'll just ignore it for now and fix it later. And then you can just exit like that. And then on the top, you've got your charging jack and your power LED to indicate the battery life and whatnot. And then you've got all of your standard GameCube controls. So those all work great. The one, oh, I opened up a game. Guess we'll see what we're playing. The one difference is that there's no start button in the middle, obviously. And so I've moved the start button to this Z button up here. So this is your start button. This is normal Z. And then everything else is what you'd expect. I don't know what game this is. But yeah, that's pretty much it as far as the outside of it goes. So I'm going to go ahead and power it off because I don't... Muramasa and the Demon Blade. I remember testing that for someone a long time ago. That's not the game I want to play today. I want to play some GameCube games. So as far as the Ashida goes, I built this live on stream a few days back. At the end of the stream I had a couple issues. One of them was that the stick was getting stuck in the wells, or the main stick was at least. And so the way I fixed that was just putting a little bit of wire like inside the well for like the stick thing, and that propped it up a couple millimeters, and so now it runs perfectly fine in the well, and it's sticking out. I think it's sticking out a normal amount. I can't feel the difference between this and a normal GameCube controller, so I think it's a fine fix. I don't know if using an OEM stick would have fixed that or not, but that's something worth keeping in mind. And then the other issue I was having was with the audio. And the issue was just that one of the 4 data lines between the audio amp and the Wii wasn't soldered properly. It really looked like it was. I thought I was getting connection with my multimeter, but I just needed to resolder it, and then it worked great. So the way audio works is with this potentiometer. So if you scroll to the right, audio gets louder, and it gets pretty loud. And then if you scroll to the left, it does get quieter. So let's play some Mario Sunshine, because one of the cool things about this portable is the full analog triggers. So you get the full range of motion in games like Mario Sunshine. I think there's like 2 other games that actually use the full triggers. But yeah, so you can run around, spray water. You can spray water a little harder. Stand and spray water. It's very cool. And I think I've got like a nearly 100%ed save file from a long time ago. I got no clue what I have left to do in Mario Sunshine, so I'll probably just do some random shines. Okay, so as far as the Ashida goes, the good stuff about it is that it is very comfortable to use, since it's literally just a scan of a GameCube controller that was put together and transformed into a portable. This is probably the most comfortable portable I've ever used, since it cheats and uses a well-established design. So if you like the feel of a GameCube controller, you will almost certainly really like the feel of this portable. I'm definitely going to be building one for myself. Other things I really like, it was very easy to build. I think I got it all put together in about 8 hours, and I probably spent about an hour fixing dumb mistakes I made and wouldn't make again if I were to build another one. Although that also doesn't count the time I spent trimming the Wii, so you probably add on another hour or two there. But very easy to build. There's no like weird like tight spots where you have to fit wires like some other builds do. There's a ton of space in here. I mean, you can see like some wires running, but there's obviously, if I wasn't good at like routing wires, that wouldn't be a huge issue for this build. And then most importantly, it looks very cool. I'm a big fan of this design. As far as the minor gripes I have with it, and these are, just to be clear, this is a very well designed portable. I like it a lot. Wes put a ton of time into this, and I would have like similar gripes with just about any portable out there. One of them is that it does use 2 Z buttons, which isn't a huge deal. It just means that it's a little bit obnoxious to like source all of the inputs for it, because you can't just buy one GameCube controller and get everything you need. But I'm not doing commissions on these. I'm not going to be building a lot of them, so I don't think that's a huge deal. Another one, and I understand why it is, there's no screen controls built into it normally. This button is usually the start button, and this button is usually Bluetooth sync for syncing up Wii remotes. Whoops. But the particular screen this board uses, it needs to have at least some screen controls on it, because as you can see right now, or maybe you can't since we're in a black world right now, the screen doesn't quite line up properly. So, the borders don't line up properly, and so I need the screen controls to be able to change that. Now the reason there aren't just like 3 extra buttons built into it somewhere is because Wes designed this to be used with the direct drive board, which is a very nice board that will give you the best like video output in a portable Wii ever. But it's not available right now because of chip shortage reasons, which is a bit of a bummer. So if you're building one for yourself and you're still using the current screen, then I recommend using these 2 buttons down here as just menu and then up, so you can at least adjust the borders. Because some screens you can just you don't need the screen controls, you can get away without them, and everything will probably be fine. But the borders on this one sometimes go a bit wonky. But those 2 things aside, this thing is, it is a very solid build. I'd highly recommend it if you're a first-time modder. I think this is almost certainly like the easiest portable you could build. I think the only other one that's close is the G-Boy, since that one has a full kit, or it had a full kit and really solid instructions. But beyond that, this was a very easy build. It was a very rewarding build. It was a very cool portable to have at the end of the day. And yeah, I think that's my general recommendation. Trying to think if there was anything else good or bad about the Ashida that I was thinking about. But I think that's pretty much it with regards to the Ashida. So I haven't done an extended playthrough on it, so that's kind of my goal right now. Let's just kind of sit down and make sure it runs for an extended period of time. Although I'm really not worried about it overheating, because I think it was, when I had opened in like the main menu for a while, it was peaking at about 40°C, like the chips inside of the Wii were, which is very low for a portable. Like most of the ones I've built go up to around 50, 45, 50. This one uses a very robust cooling system. It's got 2 big old heat sinks and then a big old fan, whereas like most portable Wiis have like a moderate sized heat sink and a moderate sized fan. But it's cool that it's equipped with something that'll keep it nice and cool, so that I'd imagine after a long play session it'll probably still feel pretty good in the hands. Let's see. I don't know why I did this one. I think this one's one of the more miserable worlds in Mario Sunshine. Although I think the portal being cool in the hands might also be related to the handles being so far away from the heat source. Oh, and I guess that's the one reason I wouldn't build an Ashida if this is like your first build or something, is because the Ashida is, I mean, it's big. This is a big portable. And if you're someone who like actually wants to go and like travel with a portable, this is going to need a pretty good sized carrying case and everything. And so, I mean, if you've got plenty of space in your backpack or whatever, then that's not a huge deal. But if you want something that's really compact and a little more reasonable to tote around with you everywhere, and that's probably the one reason why I wouldn't build an Ashida. But obviously the size is part of its charm. And if you're just looking for something to use in like bed or somewhere you're not traveling with a whole ton, then that doesn't matter at all. I would say size-wise, here, let me get a Steam Deck for comparison real quick. I don't know if this is a good angle. You can see the Steam Deck's got a decent amount of width on it this way, but it's a little bit more like thin form factor, so its carrying case isn't super bulky. So Ashida is large, but that's how it's got to be. Here, we'll go ahead and take the screen protector off. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to need to open it up and do any repairs, or open it up and do any repairs before it gets shipped out. Hopefully I never need to open it up again. So we'll take that off. So I think the next thing I wanted to do was I did a video kind of similar to this one with the Louis a while back. And then I told everyone that if they asked a question, I would do my best to answer it. And so there were a few. This one is from Bowser Toes. And they asked, with your Waluigi portable, how did you stay motivated even when stuff didn't work? So that's a pretty reasonable question, because a lot of the times when people start building a portable and then don't finish building a portable, it's because of loss of motivation, they get frustrated, and then they put the project down and never come back to it. So the honest answer is because I fell pretty hard into the sunk cost fallacy. When I first started building portable Wiis, I was 16, and so spending money on all of the expensive stuff on a portable Wii was a lot. And at one point, I had spent like $300, which was more than I'd spent on pretty much anything ever in my life. So it was like, well, I have to get this working. I spent so much money. If I don't finish it, then I'll just have wasted all my money. Which usually is not the best mindset for things, but it ended up working out. Since I did end up getting good at portables, and now it's my livelihood. But another thing that really helped was because I could still see that I was getting better at soldering. Like when I first started like working on building a portable Wii, I spent a whole lot of time like trying to trim a Wii and get it working, and I was just not good enough at soldering to do like the vias on a Wii. But then after I did other things like the voltage regulators and used somebody else's trimmed Wii for a while, I was able to go back to like soldering to vias and small things and go, oh, I'm better at this. I have gotten better. Just like most things where at the start of something, as you're practicing more, you notice progress really, really quickly, which feels good. And so I was able to see that, and that kept me motivated throughout most of that. I think that thing applies to a lot of things. Like whenever I pick up a new video game or a new hobby, and it's very fun at first because I'm getting way better very quickly. But then sometimes games I stop getting better, and then it's not nearly as much fun. But with portables, I'm like fine at building portables, but I'm good enough that it's fun. And I think just getting to that point, it just takes time. But oh well, there goes Milo. That's the upstairs dog. I'll go shut him up if he doesn't stop barking soon. So yeah, so even though the Waluigi never ended up really working or being what I wanted it to be when I first started, by the time I was done with it, I knew that I was good enough to like actually build a portable and have something that would work. And so from there on, I was able to build a real portable, and yeah. So I guess my recommendation would be to just stick through it, try and like pay attention to what you're getting better at. If you don't feel like you're improving, then it could be that your tools are bad. That's a very distinct possibility. That was part of my frustration when I was first building portables. But it might be worth taking a step back and practicing soldering on something else, or something along those lines. Then there was a question from CRT Beanie who said, I can't decide if I want to buy a Game Boy or commission a portable Wii. Which should I do? So the important thing to know with portable Wiis is that commissions are incredibly expensive. Maybe even unreasonably expensive. Everyone I've seen who is like good at building portables and like their time is valuable, they charge around $1,000, maybe more, for a portable Wii, which that price is not worth it unless you're someone who really cares about having like no emulation, perfect quality, best gaming experience in the world. If that matters to you, then a portable Wii might be worth it. Or if you just have a lot of money and spending $1,000 or more isn't a huge deal to you, then sure, go for it. Buy a portable Wii. But the only other reason to have a portable Wii is if you think they are fun to build or you think they would be fun to build. Because as a hobby, it's still very fun, very rewarding. And building your own, the cost comes out to more like $200 to $300 more if you need to buy tools. Which is a little more reasonable for a portable gaming device, even if it does only play games from 10 plus years ago. If you still just want to spend $300 to $400 and get a pretty good like GameCube / Wii portable experience, without going to a whole ton of effort of building your own, I have been really impressed with the Steam Deck. I bought one. It arrived in the mail a couple months ago. And I went ahead and I just installed EmuDeck and a million different emulators on it, and it's performed very well. I can definitely tell that it's emulation on GameCube and Wii stuff. There's some stuttering, some weird load times, things like that. So it's definitely not as flawless as like this Ashida. But if it would have existed in like 2016 and it was an option for me, I probably wouldn't have ever gotten into building portable Wiis. Sorry, I'm running around and not doing anything here. I'm trying to find the red rocket power up, and I don't know where it is in this world. But anyways, so the Steam Deck, I installed all my games on it and stuff. I've been using it a lot for like Switch and Wii U stuff. And since I'm not as like keen-eyed on what the issues with those two consoles emulation would be, I can't really tell a difference in some games. Other games that are more intensive, like Breath of the Wild, I can definitely tell. But yeah, Steam Deck is very nice. If you just want something that's a good enough experience, I think that's a very solid option. Also, if you have like a nice Android phone that's more recent, I think those can probably run Dolphin pretty well at this point. They're just a little bit more jank to get set up compared to a Steam Deck. But it's definitely doable, and not nearly as much work as a portable Wii would be. I think that's pretty much it for that question. Let's see, what else do I got? Why aren't there any put together video guides on how to trim a Wii? Oh, this one's from Zallard1, whose username I actually recognize. I'm pretty sure he's a Punch-Out speedrunner, because I hear that name and I hear Summoning Salt's voice. So tutorials on portable Wiis are always tricky, because the main problem is that the hobby changes so much. There's always new boards, new techniques, new things, that if a video were to be made about how to build a portable Wii or something along those lines, that information would become outdated at some point. And on a written guide, that's not a huge deal because you just go in, you update the guide. Milo! Shut up! Sorry, hopefully he usually shuts up if you yell at him. Okay, where was I? So written guides are easy to update because you just go in, you change some words, you add some pictures, not a huge deal. But video guides are a bit of a pain, just because there's no edit button on YouTube, or at least not like a one where you can change a whole ton and like update a guide. And so if a video guide were to be made about portable Wiis, it would require essentially like uploading the video once a year and then taking it down once a year, which would be it's not an particularly unreasonable amount of work to do, but it's a big commitment and nobody really wants to commit to it. I have thought about it, and I do think once I'm like out of school and hopefully doing content more full time, doing like a yearly, all right, update, here's how you build a portable Wii, and then still able to reference old videos and use a whole lot of old footage. I think that'd be pretty reasonable. I just don't want to commit to that right now. Another concern with video guides, or just any guides in general, is that even as that information like is outdated and such, it stays on the internet forever most of the time. And so I don't want to put up a bunch of guides and then something happens, I don't do YouTube anymore, I rage quit from the community because G-Man was mean to me or something. And then I leave up all my old stuff, and then 5 years down the line, people are still referencing it and using bad information to build portable Wiis. I see that a lot with N64 portables. So there were a bunch of old guides from like 2010 on how to build an N64, N64 trims, the best techniques and whatnot. And those are all horrifically outdated and sometimes just wrong. There's a lot of like bad information still floating around out there. And you can't really point fingers at anyone because it was just people posting guides for the time and that was good and whatnot. But now that information is a little more harmful and it's not good to have lying around. So I don't want to risk putting out a guide, having it be good for a year or two, and then having it be a detriment to people trying to get into the hobby rather than a help. Now I will say, I think you were specifically asking about Wii trimming guides. And I do think a Wii trimming video would be something good to put out because Wii trimming has changed very little. Like the basic trim has been the same since 2016 when it was first released. Because that's something that doesn't really change a whole lot. Because Wii trims are very well defined, the Wii is very well understood. And while there might be techniques for like more extreme trims in the future, those aren't as important as like just the basic trim, which could definitely be done. And I do think a video on that at some point would be good. And then I do think someone pointed Zallard to my full Louis build that I did a while back, where I did trim a Wii on camera and everything, just so that it existed in some place. How do I back up? There we go. So that's also a reasonable thing to reference. Not like a start to finish guide on what Wii trimming is and how it works and all that. A full video would definitely be better for that. But that should be a reasonable, here's what it looks like when you're cutting a Wii, and at least a good resource for that. Oh wait, I'm supposed to go to Ned Flanders' house. I think somebody requested Simpsons Hit and Run, which is not a game I've played a whole ton, so gameplay might be rough on this one. Let's see, was there anything else on the Wii trimming point? I don't think so. I think that's pretty much it. Just a lot of work, and then there are some concerns about it staying up for too long, and then being bad information in the future. Okay, one other question from Octobot, who asked, do you ever plan on making the Wiiboy Color open source? Right now, the answer is no, for a few reasons. The first, or the most important one, is that the Wiiboy Color uses a lot of parts and boards that no longer exist or are just impossible to get a hold of because of the chip shortage. So all of the board designs in that are based on the old, like GC+, the original PMS, the original UAMP, and the issue is that those boards don't exist anymore. And so if I open source them, then I've open sourced case files that can't be built for the most part. And so then the obvious answer to that is, well, just redesign it, use like PMS 2.0 or the PMS Lite and all the new boards, and then they'll be good to go. But the issue is that the Wiiboy Color is such a tight build that those boards won't fit. I had to design custom boards for the Wiiboy Color that are like more skinny and like fit the width of the Wiiboy Color perfectly. But I can't really just put the new PMS boards on there, and since those boards aren't open source or have parts that I could ever really use on them, it's just kind of, Wiiboy Color is just dead in the water for now, which is a bit unfortunate, because I do think most of the portables that I've built, and like I've just chosen to not open source, the reason I've done that is because those designs aren't very good. There's a lot of jank, there's a lot of problems, and I don't want to like open source something and then have somebody else be frustrated by it. Like, I put some time into the Louis like design. I spent a bunch of time printing out cases, doing test fits, making sure it's good enough that if somebody else wants to build it, they could, and it wouldn't be a huge source of frustration for them. But pretty much every other portable I've ever built, it works well enough for me. That's kind of my mindset with it. They have small issues, things that could be fixed given enough time. But it's also one of those things where I don't think the designs like overall are good enough that other people should build them. Like for example, the Fate Cube that I built, really cool design, looks great. It sucks to like actually use and play on. There are a lot of somewhat serious issues with it. Like some parts of it are super glued together because I either couldn't fit screw posts anywhere, or because I put screw posts in the wrong spot or something. And those issues could be fixed if I wanted to go back and redesign it. But at the end of the day, it'd be like a portable Wii with like an hour of battery life and a lot of other small problems. Now, I could just open source the files and be like, hey, these have big problems. I don't recommend building it. But I think that would still result in a lot of DMs and questions and whatnot. And well, I don't hate DMs, but I've gotten so many of them just over the years that I would prefer to get fewer of them. So one thing I have considered is just making like a repository with all my files and then just paywalling it behind my Patreon or something, which would help reduce the amount of questions I get about it. But it's also, it could be argued it's moderately scummy, since a lot of the stuff I use and the stuff I use to build my projects has been open sourced in the past. So it'd be a little rude to be like, all right, I've used open source stuff in a bunch of my things, but you guys need to pay for my stuff. And so I'm kind of going back and forth on whether or not that's reasonable or not. That might be something I advertise in the future. But personally, I'd recommend just building a portable that is open source, because those usually have had a lot of time and effort put into them to make them good and worth building. But all the closed source stuff I've got, or the stuff I haven't like made public at all, it's because it's not good enough and I don't have the motivation to make it good enough. So yeah, the Wiiboy Color I would make open source in the future if those parts did magically like come back in stock, the chip shortage ends, world peace comes to the earth. But that's just not very likely, it seems at this point. But yeah, there's definitely a future in which the Wiiboy Color gets open sourced. It's just not right now, unfortunately. And then I think I've got just one more question from E64 who asked, would you consider making a Louis kit? So this is in reference to the G-Boy kit, which used to exist, where it was, you basically just ordered one thing and it came with all the parts, the case, everything you would need to build a G-Boy, which was very cool. I've got one lying around that I need to put together at some point. And it was a really good jumping off point for beginners and kind of popularized kits a little bit within the portabilizing community. There's a lot of questions about, will the Ashida ever be a kit? Will this ever be a kit? But there are reasons why the G-Boy kit ended up no longer like going out of existence. It is a lot of work to put together and maintain a kit. I believe G-Man and Noah would get together like for a week at a time and just assemble G-Boy kits, just sorting parts into bags and putting those bags into boxes and packaging up the boxes and getting shipping labels on them. And so if a kit is successful, then it becomes a lot of work. And I don't really want to be managing like an entire kit right now. I feel like that would kind of fall into the same frustrations I have with commissions, maybe in different areas. It certainly wouldn't be the same problems. But I don't look at the process of maintaining a kit and go, oh, that looks like fun. I want to do that. And so that's the main reason why I don't think I would ever really do a kit. And the other reason is because I think the Ashida, this portable right here, is a really good middle ground between kit and just generic open sourced portable Wii. The parts list for it is very comprehensive. It's very straightforward, getting everything you need. It's not as easy as just click and buy on the BitBuilt store or whatever. But I also appreciate that the circuit boards that it uses for like the controller and stuff are sold in the 4-layer tech store. So it's really easy to get them ordered. You don't need to be familiar with like, oh, what settings do I use if I'm ordering from JLC or PCBWay or whatnot. And 4-layer tech also having all the other parts, or at least a lot of them, also make this pretty convenient to build. And then another reason why I wouldn't do a Louis kit specifically is because I don't think that the Louis is a fantastic beginner's portable. I really like the design. I think it's great and whatnot. But the problem is that it is a little bit tougher to build compared to something like a G-Boy or the Ashida. Because where you put your wires, or like where your wires are routed inside of the case, does really matter. There's not a whole lot of wiggle room. Some parts need to be soldered very carefully, very close together. And if you've never built a portable Wii before, then that's tough to do. So I don't think the Louis is a great kit option, and so that's probably why I don't really think I'd do a kit for it. One thing I might do is I may just order like a bunch of the circuit boards it needs, so that way if people just want to pay me like $10, I can ship it to them, and that'll be cheaper than like having to pay for shipping from like PCBWay or something. And so that's probably the closest I'd come to like having a kit. But yeah, I think that's pretty much my thoughts on a kit. A kit would be a multi-man project, and I'm not really in the mood for a big multi-man project like that right now. So I think that's all the questions people had for me from my last video. If you've got any, or if you want to see any specific game footage, feel free to post a comment, whatever. You have a pretty good shot of it being answered because there are not a whole ton of people who watch this channel right now. So that's good for you. Let's see. May just play Pikmin in silence for another 10 minutes, see if I can finish out this day. But yeah, long story short, the Ashida is a very nice portable. Highly recommend it to anyone looking to build a portable right now. And yeah, I'm also very happy. This video isn't sponsored, but the PCBWay case turned out really well. I didn't have any like bad warping issues on this one. I've had some warping issues on other cases I've gotten from them. But it looks, I mean, you can see it. It looks really nice. I think it looks better in person, to be honest. But very happy with how it turned out. The color is great. It was expensive though. I think this case cost like $300. So not a... okay, I may actually need to open it up and fiddle with the left trigger a bit. It's not as responsive as I'd like it to be. But yeah, case overall is very nice. And yeah, I think that's... oh, hang on. Here we go. Alright, let's get the cat's opinion on it. What do you think, huh? Alright, well, she's a fan of it, and I think I might just call the video there. So that was the Ashida. Those were the few questions I got asked. And yeah, cool portable. I'll be getting this one shipped out very soon, and thanks for watching.